No matter what you look like on the outside, you are beautiful. And no matter what society tells you, whether you think that certain nose or skin color or whatever is the in thing now or is trendy, you can defy society standards of beauty by just embracing who you are and being the most beautiful version of you.
Welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast. It's your girl, Kate, here. This is the place to find inspiring stories of world-changing women and girls every single week. We have a new, unique story coming your way every week, so make sure that you subscribe to the One Girl Revolution podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at onegirlrevolution.com to find all of our over 190 episodes of the podcast. 190 stories. It's amazing. And we have so many incredible stories yet to come. Please listen to all of the episodes of the podcast and please share them. These are amazing stories that everyone needs to know about. Watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series on our website and on YouTube. Donate to our nonprofit organization to help us continue our critical work to elevate women's voices and their stories. And go to onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com today. On this week's episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast, I welcome Nechami Tenenbaum, founder of Defiance Beauty, formerly known as Karmela Cosmetics. I spoke to Nechami on the phone a few years ago and have been meaning to have her on the podcast ever since to talk about her incredible clean beauty brand that gives back to multiple causes and does so much good in the world. But as you've heard me say here before, I don't believe in coincidences. And when I finally reached back out to have Nechami on the podcast, she shared that Karmela Cosmetics was going through a full rebrand and they'd be launching Defiance Beauty in September. So here we are in September, and I'm so grateful and excited to finally have Nechami on the podcast. Nechami has a really inspiring life story and a powerful story about why she got into makeup in the first place. In this episode, she talks about her upbringing and how her early life inspired her to care about others and to care about beauty. She talks about her own journey from being a college student and how she ended up getting into business and how she ultimately started her own clean beauty brand. She talks about the causes that Defiance Beauty supports and how other brands can do the same. She talks about how she comes up with the colors and all the different products that Defiance Beauty has, and so much more. You're going to love Nechami and her story. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Nechami. Nechami, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Kate. So much fun to be here.
I am so excited to have you on. You and I talked on the phone years ago because your dad had found me on LinkedIn. I think we're both, I still can't remember the exact story or how we got connected, but he reached out to me and was like, you have to know about my daughter and what she's doing. You and I talked on the phone, and I think it was like right before COVID or something. And then obviously the world got turned upside down. And here we are finally years later, which I don't believe in coincidences. So I think the timing is perfect. And obviously with the rebrand and everything you have going on with Karmela Cosmetics and transferring to Defiance Beauty and all that you have going on, I think it's perfect timing.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And I cannot believe that, as you were saying before COVID, I'm thinking that was like close to 4 years ago almost.
Yes. It's crazy. I think it was right when I had started One Girl Revolution and your dad reached out and was like, my daughter is One Girl Revolution, which you are. And I can't wait to talk all about that and everything that you're doing. But yeah, it just timing, sometimes things take a little bit longer, but here we are. And I'm so excited to talk about you. I just love your mission and all that you do through your brand to promote beauty and self-love and inclusivity. Just what you share with women, that no matter who they are, no matter what they look like, no matter what their skin color is, that they're beautiful and they have a place with Defiance Beauty. And so you're just doing so many great things. So I want to talk about your brand and your company. But before we get into that, I would love to rewind and hear a little bit about you and a little bit about your story. Can you share a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and maybe how you got into makeup and cosmetics?
Sure. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to try to keep it as concise as I can. So I grew up in Michigan, as you know, and I'm the oldest of 4 children. I have 3 younger brothers. it's so funny. I always say I had to like overcompensate and start my own beauty brand because I'm such the boy family. And my mom was not into makeup, by the way. She's very into like natural, no makeup at all. So it's interesting. But speaking of my mom, she was very health conscious, still is. We were kind of like the broccoli kids before it was cool, you know. And I grew up really having a strong awareness and background of healthy living and natural living. Like she was like the Whole Foods mom before it was cool kind of thing, you know? And she's really ahead of her time, truth is. And I've always loved makeup. My grandmother, so my mother's parents were both artists. Actually, my dad's were also, but in different ways. But my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was an artist, painter, and into fashion to a certain extent, and her makeup always had that red lipstick, you know, and she was the one who got me into makeup in the first place. She went, you know, my Sephora VIP card. She's the one who brought me to Sephora, you know, when I was an early teen. And so I was always into makeup. I was always good at it. I helped my friends, but it was never something that I was planning on going into as a career. So once I graduated college, I actually graduated with the undergrad in psychology because my plan was to get a PsyD, to be a clinical psychologist. And my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was over actually, and after I graduated, and she needed some help with her makeup. So I pulled out a makeup book that I had bought years earlier when I was 12 because someone got me a bat mitzvah gift of a Barnes and Noble gift card. I'm not sure why, because whatever, it's not I hope they're not listening because that's but anyway, I took the money and I went and bought I took the gift card and I went and bought a makeup book by a celebrity makeup artist. And I studied it and I loved it. And I brought it to my grandmother. This is when I was, 20 or so. And I was helping her with her makeup. And she says to me, why don't you go to makeup school? So I did. I went to makeup school. And this is when I was figuring out which programs to go to for my PsyD or grad school. And when I was there, I realized that there was a real need for high-end natural cosmetics. And so once I graduated, I decided to go to business school instead. I switched gears. I had a very inspiring professor, also an undergrad in marketing. So I went for that. I got my MBA in marketing. After a lot of R&D, I ended up launching my brand, Karmela Cosmetics. So what ended up happening is I really wanted to create a deep meaning. I didn't just want it to be about makeup, right? I really wanted to create a deeper purpose for my brand. So what I ended up doing was I teamed up with 4 nonprofits and I organized each color collection. I assigned each color collection to one of these nonprofits to whom we donated 10% of profits from each collection. And then what I ended up doing was I also, you also want to talk about these things, right? So I spoke about these issues on social media and in our posts, later on in our podcast. That's another story. And I really created this brand focused on the core is really of all of us women, how we're all really connected and the same at our core level, at our soul level. And that's really where this idea of giving back came from, because it doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from, what your ethnicity is, what religion you are. We all have the same struggles. We all have the same challenges, or similar, I should say, similar struggles, similar challenges. And no one is, better than anyone else. And we're just all connected at our core. And that was really the idea of Karmela Cosmetics and these giving back projects that we've done.
And that's what I love so much about what you're doing. And I think that we need to shine more of a light on businesses like yours that are finding, yes, it's a for-profit, but there are so many ways that for-profits can even give back in a percentage. Or I know with the rebrand, you have some cool things that you're working on that's going to be a give back component in a different way. But I want to ask you about the four organizations that Karmela Cosmetics was giving a percentage to. It's the National Breast Cancer Foundation, the National Eating Disorder Foundation, the Rapunzel Project, and then the Endometriosis Foundation of America. Those are four very different organizations. What made you choose those organizations or identify with those organizations? Is there a personal connection, or what made you choose those four?
Yes. So that's a great question. And I'll tell you, I just want to go back for a minute in order to answer your question, which is part of our brand messaging, which we're continuing and we're actually diving deeper with this rebranding with Defiance Beauty, is the idea, and this will answer your question, don't worry about it, is the idea of creating visibility for those who feel invisible. And it's funny because I really didn't realize, I wasn't able to articulate it until recently when we were focusing on the rebranding, that's what it is. It's the visibility factor and making people aware that we know what's going on and we see them. And so when it comes to these four categories, these four organizations, the NBCF was breast cancer. And I wanted women to feel, sometimes we're going through things and we kind of like go outside. You know that feeling when you walk outside and everybody's living their life. And like inside, internally, you're literally freaking out. You feel so sick, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, and you almost think that everybody knows, or you wish everybody knew in a way, or you don't wish, but you do. Like it just, mixed feelings. So often when women are going through things, sometimes people could see, sometimes people can't. It's about really feeling seen and understood. And so when it comes to breast cancer, that one was more of a universal issue and a challenge that affects all women and their families, and people just don't feel heard. People don't feel seen. I should say women don't feel heard and seen. They just feel like people don't understand because we really don't. Unless we're going through something, we can't fully understand it. But I just wanted these women who have breast cancer to know that like we're their sister. We're like we feel for them. We see them. We see them, and that was a huge, and we're there to support them. And just knowing you have a community who talks about what you're going through and is there for you in whatever way possible, that means a lot. And the NBCF, I chose that cancer organization, specifically the National Breast Cancer Foundation, because they are so wonderful. They really are there for the women. And, when it comes to nonprofits, you mentioned nonprofits before, but very often, the CEO is just getting a nicer, bigger office. And the people who they're trying to help are not really being helped. But the NBCF, when I first spoke to them, they were telling me about what they do with $5, what they do with $10, and I was like, wow, $5 to get an information packet to help women like know who to turn to and for resources. They really stretch their dollars to help the women. So that's why I chose NBCF. Now, NEDA, National Eating Disorders Association, I chose because I wanted to give back to help bring awareness to eating disorders. I have a very close friend. I was about to say I have a very close friend who I love dearly. She's like a little sister to me. And she has struggled with eating disorders for many, many years. And when I was in high school, I felt so powerless to help her when she was going through things. And as an adult, I was like, let me include this in the giving back portion, because at least for the awareness, and she knows, and the women who are going through, who are struggling with eating disorders, and the girls, they know that we see them again. They feel seen, they feel heard. Then endometriosis, I have a very close friend who has suffered from endometriosis. It's interesting because I didn't know this. I'm being totally honest over here. I didn't know she had endometriosis. I knew she had a lot of different infertility related issues. And when I heard about endo, I was like, wow, this is crazy that 1 out of 10 women suffer with endometriosis. And it's like your period symptoms, but like on steroids. I mean, it's horrible. It literally, some of them just can't function, from the pain and the nausea. And then it leads to depression and mental health challenges. So I really wanted to bring more awareness to the to endometriosis, because it's one of those diseases or conditions, I should say, that are, I'm not sure if it's considered a disease, but it's a condition that is not well known, and it really should be if it affects 10% of women, right? So that was another. I just, to be totally like transparent over here, I have had really, really bad periods, and I don't have endometriosis. And so I was like, wow, I could relate to the nausea and the, PMS and throwing up, and, the depression related symptoms. And so I really wanted to give back to endo. It's almost like I wanted to help, like, the people who they don't have a voice, there's no visibility, and they feel invisible, and they're going through this. And people, I would get comments from people like, oh my gosh, I would, my friends thought that I was being a drama queen every month, and I was literally laying in bed. I could barely move from the cramps and the nausea with like 10 heating pads, and, other people went to multiple doctors. Someone told me they went to doctors who said, oh, you have the flu. It's like, I have the flu every month. It was crazy. So that was that. And then the fourth organization, which is the Rapunzel Project, is they help women who are going through chemo avoid hair loss by utilizing cold caps. So that was just something. Our hair is so much a part of our identity and the way that we feel about ourselves. And I really wanted to help women be able to keep their hair if they can, So that's the backstory when it comes to who we gave back to through Karmela. And I will say, though, that with this rebranding with Defiance Beauty, we're not forgetting about these organizations. We're still going to be donating lipsticks to them and figuring out how we can partner in the future. Even discussing, we're not going to stop discussing, challenges related to being a woman. And now, because of my partnerships with them, I have so much more knowledge and awareness, and I know what to talk about. So that's definitely not being thrown to the wayside. But with this new rebranding with Defiance Beauty, we're really going to be focusing primarily on giving back to domestic violence. Lipsticks, we're going to be donating lipsticks for every order, for every lipstick purchase. We're going to be donating a lipstick to Find Your Fabulosity, which was founded by Cheryl Kurland, who is the most special, wonderful woman. And she literally gives her own time, volunteers all of her time and energy and money, to send out lipsticks to women who are in domestic violence shelters. And she doesn't take a penny for this. Like, she literally does it. It's all volunteer. And I have partnered with her in the past. We've donated a lot of lipsticks to her organization unofficially, but we're going to make it official during this rebranding, because it's something that I feel so passionate about. I think bringing visibility to women who are going through this, which is one of the most hidden forms of pain and trauma. So many of them, like, you have no idea, they're walking next to you in the street. It could be your friends, it could be family, and at least let them know that we're thinking about them, and we're there for them, and they have support and places to turn to should they decide to utilize them.
And it's the power of beauty, right? And I know that that's such a core of your business as well, as like helping women to feel beautiful. I have a dear friend actually that I met through One Girl Revolution years ago, and she is a survivor of addiction and was a heroin addict for a bunch of years, and ended up going back to school to become an esthetician and doing facials. And now she donates her time. She runs an organization called Beauty from Ashes, and she partners with different estheticians to do facials or makeup or all these things. And the power that feeling beautiful, or even the simple power of putting on lipstick, how that can change our perspective of ourselves and truly change our lives, right? Even just how you feel about yourself can really make you stand a little bit taller. And you're talking about these different populations of women that probably feel really isolated and feel like they're suffering in silence, suffering alone. And you're building community, whether you, and I know you know that, but I just think that that's such a beautiful thing that I'm hearing from you, is that you're building community amongst women, and we're stronger when we stand together. And it's so important to bring women together. And you're doing that through beauty and, of course, like through giving back. Watch One Girl Revolution's Emmy-nominated short documentary, The Girl Inside, on our YouTube channel or at onegirlrevolution.com. The Girl Inside features a poignant look at the stories of incarcerated women within Cook County Jail and a life-changing academic course taught by Dr. Laura Biaggi called Storytelling as a Healing Art. This short documentary reunites Dr. Biaggi with 5 of her former students for a special one-day course on the transformative power of our stories and our voices. And what is revealed is the girl inside. Watch the Emmy-nominated short documentary The Girl Inside today on YouTube or at onegirlrevolution.com. I want to talk about the products because and I know it's growing right now. You're evolving in some really cool ways, but tell me about all the different products that you sell.
Okay, sure. Yes. I also just want to comment on something that you just said before, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
A minute ago about beauty helping, about confidence, and that is a huge thing. You should just know when I first spoke to Cheryl, I said, okay, what lipstick colors do you want? Like, what shades should I donate? I was like, do you want nudes, pinks? She's like, believe it or not. So I was like, we do purples or reds. And she said, believe it or not, all the women very often ask me for reds or purples because it gives them this feeling of empowerment, and they feel bolder because for so long they've kind of been invisible and been hidden, right? And that boosts the confidence. So yeah, beauty, definitely beauty products help change, and really it's amazing from the outside in. From that, it's really quite amazing. So in regards to the products, and I just want to talk about the overall vibe of this because that will help explain things. So the brand, as we mentioned, is called Defiance Beauty. It's a rebrand. And what we're really focusing on is the fact that there is an underrepresentation of women of color, of minorities in the beauty industry. And the more people can, like us, like minorities, because I'm also a minority, can put out products geared for minorities. And when I say that, I don't mean just like slapping an extra dark shade here or there, or like a olive tone shade here. I mean literally created for minorities, but it's inclusive but not exclusive. So it's for everybody. So if you're white, you'll find your shade. And if you're Black, and if you're Latina, and if you're Asian, like there are shades for everyone. And that is the whole purpose of our brand, is that anyone who has ever felt invisible or like an add-on is going to become visible now. So the shades that we have, so we're starting with lip. So they're basically, it's a lipstick that is like a glossy lipstick, like a creamy lipstick. And it has a lot of benefits, particularly for women who really want the skincare benefits within the lipstick. So it has anti-aging properties. It's a moisturizer. It's almost like, when your lips are really chapped and feeling, like you would still put it on, and it's amazing. I mean, seriously, it has healing properties. We have collagen peptides in it. We have plumper. It's peppermint, and peppermint essential oils, by the way. So it's not artificial. So we're launching with 5 beautiful shades and they're multi-use shades. So you could use them as on your cheeks and on your lips. Like we're creating it for that. It's not just like you're taking a lipstick and putting it on your cheek. It's literally made to be a cream blush as well.
Cool.
Yeah. And what was I going to say? Yeah, so it's great for all ages. So we were really gearing it for even women who are, not just even, but especially women who are above the age of 40, 50. They often feel like they're aging out. People stop looking at them so much. People stop thinking they just don't feel as beautiful. And so we want to really bring attention to the fact that They are beautiful. You know, everyone's beautiful. Um, and the plumping ingredient is I mean, everyone's gonna love that because women who are above 40, you know, you start losing collagen, and then younger women all want to have bigger lips. So it's just the way things are.
Everybody wins in this
Yeah,
situation, but
exactly. And then we also have other products in the work. We have a really great eyeliner for Q1, I think, of 2024 prepared. And we're still working on other products as well, and they're all going to be with that idea. The main purpose of each product is the fact that they're all inclusive. So it's it's not going to be for just one skin color or one ethnicity. You know, you're going to find your skin tone. You're going to find the colors that work for you, that make you feel and look beautiful. It's for a real woman. That's what it is. You know, it's real women.
how do you get the idea? And I know right now you're going through this big rebrand and you're doing a lot of work on your products, but how do you get an idea for a product or a color, even where you're like, oh, this is a beautiful color? Like, do you walk through the store and see a color and you're like, I want a lipstick in that color? And then once you get the idea, how do you go from start to finish, getting that product like made and then packaged and to where you are now with this rebrand?
Okay, so the way it works is, I mean, everyone's different, but I can tell you, like, based on my own, like, what I
Yeah,
do.
I want to know you. I want to
Okay,
know
me.
from
Fine.
you. Yeah.
Okay. It's very funny because I get inspiration from everything. Like, I'll be walking outside on a run, and I see that this gorgeous tree, like white and pink flowers, are blooming, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we need a lipstick color like that. But so sometimes I really do that, like, literally. Or I'll be walking in and I'll see like this new KitchenAid that I love their light pink, and I'll be like, oh my God, we need a color like that. Like, I'm not even kidding. That's literally what I do. Other times, yeah, I'm walking in the mall and I see pictures of models, or I see um actual products in Sephora or in Macy's or Nordstrom, whatever, and I say, okay, like, noted. I want a similar product. I want a similar shade, but we're gonna make it even better. I'm always trying to think like how we're gonna make this the best possible product within its category, you know, which is why I added the skincare benefits and the long lasting as long as it can last, and stuff like that. So I try to do that. And then what I'll do is I'll send my idea to the lab. I'll talk to them. I send them a long email. I'll be like, here's what I need. Could you please make this for me? And then they send me a sample or a few samples, and then we kind of go back and forth from there, and then we come out with a product. I mean, and I said it in like a minute, but let me tell you, it is a process.
I'm sure it is. And also, I've been watching all of your Instagrams of you like traveling and trying different things and going to the lab. And I know it's a long process to get it from start to finish, but I was curious. You know, I think there are other people that are out there that might have an idea for something. And I just think that creators are so interesting, and I'm just curious, you know, how the different products get made. And I think something that really sets your products apart, and you mentioned this earlier, is a lot of the toxins that are in makeup products, and you're really trying to stay away from that as much as possible.
Yeah, so we are considered a clean beauty brand, and it's something that I'm very proud of. And I definitely credit my mom for that because, as I said before, she's always been into clean eating and healthy living. So it's something that's very important to me. And a huge part of the brand also was definitely the natural aspect, the toxin free, but it was also the fact that you wouldn't know that it's toxin free by looking at the products, by their packaging, by the design, and by the way they performed. Because I had found in the past that I would try natural products. Either the packaging would be like super like flowery and like brown or whatever. Maybe not brown anymore, but like used to be like that, or like super flowery and just like not cool. And I wanted trendy packaging. I wanted cool, luxury feeling packaging, and also products, like no grainy feeling thing. You know what I mean? Everything had to be high end and also affordable, though. You know, so the everyday woman, the real woman, could just buy it.
Yeah, I think in my experience, some of the natural products too, they're like more powdery, or they just don't line up to like the toxin filled makeup. And so it can be frustrating. And I believe that their eyes are becoming more open to clean beauty products. I was raised in a very similar family. My mom was very similar to your mom, I think, like a woman before her time. So she always was looking at packaging in her food, but also there's such a need to be educated about what are we, okay, yeah, we're eating organic, we're exercising, we're doing all these things, but what are we putting on our face, right? And like, what's in our lotions? What's in all these different things? People think about it when they have babies, like, oh, I do toxin free for my baby. But then what are we doing to the largest organ, our skin, and we're pumping it full of toxins?
Absolutely. I mean, it goes right into our bloodstream. That's what they say.
Yeah. But it's
So
good that people are becoming more educated. Are you seeing that in the beauty industry, right? In the makeup industry? Do you feel like the public is becoming more aware of that, and so more makeup companies are trying to compete with that and become cleaner? What are you seeing when it comes to the makeup industry?
yes, I am seeing that makeup companies are becoming cleaner or launching more clean products. Um, and as a whole, definitely, because I think they're realizing that that's the way to go. People are becoming more educated, especially post COVID. I think COVID really helped bring to light the issues that of regards to the whatever we're consuming in any sort of capacity, whether it's on our skin, makeup, or food. Um, and I think people just started. I guess we had more time on our hands. I don't know what it was, but so definitely the industry is definitely heading towards the more natural end of things. Even like the inclusivity factor is interesting because our whole thing is that we're not just slapping in a black woman here or another woman of color here or minority. We're literally creating it for minorities, and I feel like the industry as a whole are becoming more inclusive to an extent, but it's more of the slapping on idea. I really haven't seen companies that are created primarily for minorities and bringing the visibility factor and to women who have been feeling invisible in whether it's because they're a minority or because of a different life stage or a circumstance or situation that they've been found in, whether it's unfortunate, like a horrible traumatic situation like abuse, women who feel like they're aging out, or maybe the LGBT community, whatever it is. Anyone who feels that they haven't been seen for who they are. So it's important.
We have, we all have those moments, right, where we don't feel seen or we don't feel like we fit in. And even from my perspective, here I'm this Irish girl, and even going into Sephora, I never feel like I can find the right colors, the right products. And I think that everyone can relate to that. Women can all relate to that, where we don't feel like there's not an inclusivity there. And then even being represented, right? Like we're talking about inclusivity and being represented in advertising and in what's going on in the makeup industry. And you could say that about anything. I just had a couple of moms on the podcast who have children with Down syndrome, and we were talking about a similar thing, right? That finally we're seeing children with Down syndrome or people with Down syndrome being represented in advertising. Same with wheelchair accessibility. We're seeing that start to happen, and even seeing diverse populations of women in the advertising for makeup. But it's important for companies like yours because you're challenging these other companies. You're saying, look, this is what we're doing. And I think there's going to be a time where some of these companies are going to see what you're doing and be like, oh, I want to do it too. So I'm grateful for what you're doing, but also there's an onus on the consumer. We should be buying from smaller companies like yours and supporting what you're doing. Of course, there's that give back component, which is amazing, but we also can be the ones to stand up and say, hey, I'm not being represented, or hey, I go into Sephora and I don't see any products that fit my color scheme. And here, Defiance Beauty is doing it right. And so we have the power too to speak up and promote things like what you're doing.
That's such a great point you brought up, Kate, because I always talk about how the power is in the hands of the consumers. We tell brands what they need to put out, because without the consumers, brands obviously cannot continue to exist. And it's interesting because I remember even who we're putting out on social, so obviously social keeps evolving every day, every week, whatever, but when we post customers or UGC content, um, if you, for example, someone said to me a couple years ago, I remember this so clearly because I thought about it for a while. She's like, why don't you put out pictures of normal people? All your models are so beautiful. They're like above average. So I was like, I've tried, by the way. I've literally tried posting people who are just real everyday women. And let me tell you, the views and the likes that we get are just not comparable to the above average woman. And do I like that? No, of course not. Of course not. The whole point of my brand is inclusivity and diversity and connection, but we also have to exist. We can't exist if we don't have customers, if we don't have likes, if we don't have, you know what I mean? So it's really important to remember that, like, if you want to see something, then first of all, tell the brands, because we all, especially small businesses like us, like, I love when people message me requests. Even, by the way, to answer, I forgot to say this when you asked me about how we get inspiration for colors. Sometimes I literally create colors based on what my followers in my community ask me to create, or customers. Yeah, like I've done it before. Yeah. So so if you like the pictures and you comment and you engage and you share posts of models who look like you, or or who you feel like represent the general public, or whatever it is, that's really helpful for brands. And if you purchase from us, the more the industry will be forced to change. If you show that you're supporting brands who are representing minorities and women of color, Irish women, anyone who really is, because you're also a minority technically, right? So you're not white Caucasian. So then people will then the brands will, the big brands especially, will start listening, and creating products that that everybody could wear. So it's a very important point that you brought up, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even I'm thinking about like the cleanliness of products, right? Like clean products. I also have terrible eczema since I was a little kid. I have a rare immune deficiency. And so I'm also very select on like what makeups I use, and saying I'm not buying products that have X, Y, and Z in it, and telling the companies, right? People talk about boycotts, or like, oh, I don't buy that product because of X, Y, and Z. I don't shop at this store, or I don't shop at this particular brand. Speak up and use your voice, use social media, like you shared, like the power of social media. It can be used for so much good, right? To promote the great work that you're doing, to promote the organizations that you care about, or that other people that are listening that we care about. We have so many opportunities to really speak up and spread awareness about the things that we care about. But that includes also challenging these bigger brands and saying, I'm not going to buy from you because of X, Y, and Z things that you have in your products. And it's important for us to speak up.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree.
So I would love to hear a story from you. And it could be, maybe it's a couple of stories. And I'm sure that there are so many of women that have felt included because of your products, or your products changed their life, or maybe it's connected to one of the organizations that you were able to help, or the new organization that you're helping through your brand. But could you share a story or two of women that have been helped through your brand?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. So I could only tell you what I've been told, obviously. So I don't always, that's part of the challenge of the way that we have given back in the past, because I don't know exactly, you know what I mean? Unless if someone emails me and says like, hey, I got your lipstick in the NBCF, box. But what I could tell you is I've gotten messages. I'm thinking of one in particular. Someone told me that, and this goes back to the idea of confidence with makeup, that she couldn't wear makeup for many, many years because she was so sensitive to it would just burn her. I don't know what happened exactly. And she said that once she discovered my lipsticks, she's been able to wear makeup and feel beautiful and confident. And that really meant a lot to me because it just it goes to show that, first of all, the non-toxic and the natural and for sensitive skin, is working out. But also because what does that lead to? That means that she could wear makeup and she could feel confident and beautiful and bold. And she, by the way, always gets the red lipsticks. I've noticed. I love it. And then I was at an event once and someone came over to me and thanked me for giving back to endometriosis because she said she really has it was funny because it was actually at an eating disorders event, like an NIDA event, but she also had endo, and she thanked me for giving back to the Endo Foundation, or even talking about it, because she's like, no one talks about it. It's so hard. They call it the silent illness, by the way. So it really is. It's not the only one, but it's one of them, So she thanked me and told me how much it meant to her. So that really meant a lot to me. It still stands out in my mind to this day.
And I'm sure there are so many women that have been touched and so many more that are going to be touched through this rebrand and through all the new products and the new work that you have going on. It's so exciting.
Donate to One Girl Revolution's nonprofit organization to help us continue our work, highlighting inspiring women and girls that are changing the world through their lives, promoting their work and their organizations, and building a powerful and positive force out in the world, dedicated to empowering women, their voices, and their stories. Donate at onegirlrevolution.com/donate. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com/donate.
I want to know from you, in your dream of dream worlds, where do you see Defiance Beauty going from here? I know it's a very exciting time because there's a lot of great things happening with the rebrand and the new products. But where do you see Defiance Beauty going from here? Or where do you hope that it goes from here? And what impact do you hope that Defiance Beauty can have on the world, specifically on women?
Well, I would love for it to be a global brand in huge retailers like Sephora. That's a goal, definitely. And I want it to be a household name, like one of those makeup brands, beauty brands that everybody knows about. And then when you see, no matter who you are, where you come from, your ethnicity, your religion, whatever, when you see Defiance Beauty, that you automatically think of your power, of the idea of the word defiance, well, of the name Defiance Beauty, which is defying society's standards of beauty. And, that it's not all about the white, blonde, Caucasian model who's 18 or 24, right? That no matter how old you are, what skin color you have, and you look at it and you say, wow, I'm so powerful, I'm beautiful. And you feel that confidence and empowerment and that sense of connection between women that comes from that soul level connection.
It's commonality, right? Like you started by talking about your products, and that is it's a place where women can come together. And that's what we care so much about here at One Girl Revolution. Like at the heart of it, we're all the same. We're all the same, and we all have the same struggles. And I'm thinking about, even talking to you, I'm thinking about all of the women with autoimmune disorders, or maybe they struggle with one of the disorders that we've talked about, or endometriosis, or whatever their thing is. We all have struggles throughout our life, and just the power of feeling beautiful. And even the power of someone saying, wow, you look beautiful today. I think it's important to mention that too, that we all have the power to say that to someone on the street, or, hey, I love the color of your lipstick, or, hey, I try to do that more often. Like, hey, I love your outfit. Seems like a silly thing, but that can just change someone's entire day, but also it can change the way that people view themselves.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. It's like those small compliments, we think them a lot, but we don't always say them. And it's important to really say it. So this one, like I just was running the other day and I see this woman wearing a gorgeous dress and I was like, I love your dress. Where'd you get it from? And she was so shocked. I mean, she was very warm and sweet, but I could tell she was so taken aback that like a random stranger in New York City asked her that.
I feel like though COVID, not to blame everything in our lives on COVID, but I feel like COVID has led to people not knowing how to like interact the way that we did before, right? Like people used to do that all the time. Like, hey, I love your outfit, especially women, especially girls, where people I feel like are a little more startled, like, oh, she talks. Yeah, I do talk. Like,
That's so
but I
funny.
know you've done so much work, and I know that your brand just has. I can't wait to see where you go from here. Honestly, there's so much to be done, and it just is going to continue to grow and build and evolve. And I'm excited to follow. But I know that it's so difficult. There are days where it's just really difficult to be building the brand. I'm sure you've had days where you're like, whatever, why am I doing this? Maybe even during this rebrand, like, I'm just going to cancel it. I'm just going to leave like Karmela where it was and just let it be a piece of a chapter of my life.
Right.
But you just continue going. If you could get to the very root of why you do, what drives you, what's the driving force behind this work, what would you say that is?
There are a few things, but I would say we all want to make a difference. And I think for me, a huge part of it is really wanting to create that difference in the world and leave that footprint. And the way that I say this because I feel like everyone should really should be doing this. It's not like as an egotistical thing, but you have to know your worth and you have to know the talents and gifts that you have. And I really believe and I know that it's all God given. And those gifts that I've been given, I'm obligated to use them. If you have the gift of beauty, whether that's spreading beauty and however, or whatever that means, it's important to utilize that to help other women feel beautiful and confident. And if you have the and I know that that is something that I have been given in regards to helping, give to the world. And I really want to do that, but it's not only about the beauty on a physical level, it's about beauty, internal beauty. And I know that I have the gift of making people feel connected and bringing people together and respecting people no matter where they come from. I didn't say this earlier, but that's also something that was a huge part of my childhood, which it was that my parents were extremely welcoming. I had an open home and all different types of people were welcome from all walks of life. So that's something that I bring to this world and I bring to my brand, which ends up impacting the world at large. So yeah, I mean, it's really about, I think, about impacting it and really bringing that sense of love and connection to women all over. And that's what really drives me, that certain measure of success that when it comes to that.
That's a beautiful thread that you just went back and talked about how you had a very welcoming home and, very inclusive. And I grew up similar. And I think that has impacted why I do what I do, or even how I interact with people, and even why One Girl exists. And I know that's the same with your brand. It's really beautiful to think back. Everybody has different traumas throughout their life, and sometimes people have childhood traumas, but there are these moments in our early childhood, in our early life, that really help us or put us on this path to care about the things that we care about as adults. And even sometimes it's the difficult things, right? That, whether you're bullied or you dealt with a eating disorder or something else, like everybody has their thing, but sometimes those things, as when we were little kids, good or bad, can really help us to help other people when we get older. So
Totally.
Let's talk about Defiance Beauty. How can people support your work? How can they get involved in what you're doing? What are ways that people can get involved in Defiance Beauty?
So you can follow us on social, and it's Defiance Beauty BN. That's the tag. I believe it's all of our social. And then the website is defiancebeauty.com. And our podcast, by the way, which I didn't even mention, but we continue to talk about different challenges affecting women, and what we can do. And, obviously there's a lot more that goes into that, but it's called We Are Women. So you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you listen to your podcasts, honestly. So TikTok, Instagram, those are our main socials. And by the way, you could always follow me on my personal Instagram and message me. But either way, if you message me on any of our socials, it's always me who, no matter who's helping me out with social all the time, no one reads my DMs because people send me personal stuff based on the topics that we discuss, and it's always going to be me. And I always respond, unless if you're trying to pitch me like some annoying thing. But if you're talking to me at a human level, then absolutely, I always respond.
I will put all of the links in the show notes for all of the socials, including your personal social, so people can follow you. I always say that the free and easy way to support anyone who's on this podcast is to follow them on social media and share the products. Of course, they can buy the products, which is so cool. And I love looking through everything that you have. So I encourage people to check out the website and support your work, and also support your sisters. So if you know somebody who's going through a difficult time right now, or maybe just needs to be cheered up, they could buy some of your products too and gift it to one of their friends.
Yes, absolutely. People have done that, by the way. I love seeing it. I love seeing people. I'll see an address and a name and then another address, and I'm like, what's going on? So I usually assume that it's a gift.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy expensive. Just a lipstick could just brighten someone's day. So I will encourage everybody who's listening to follow what you're doing and support it in any way that they can. Before I let you go, I always end this podcast on 2 questions. So I'll start with the first one. Who is a one-girl revolution in your life? You are a one-girl revolution and you're changing the world through your life every single day. But who is a one-girl revolution, a woman or girl that inspires you?
Can I do more than one?
Of course, you can do as many as you want.
So it's really a group of women, of my close friends, and my mother and my sister-in-law, basically moms who I see my friends, and some of them, I hope that they know that, listen to it and know it now. Even the ones who feel like they're not doing something major when it comes to career or like external impact kind of things, but I see them as moms and they're literally changing the world. And so those are my role models. Those are the people who I look to. And I'm like, wow, like you have the hardest job. And I'm not trying to sound cliche. But like, it's so true. Like I just visited my brother and sister-in-law in Israel, and seeing how my sister-in-law does. And, as a mom, she also works, but as a mom, and just her patience and love and nurture, it's full time. You never get a break. And those are the people, my close friends and my family, who the moms who really I commend.
That's beautiful. They are changing the world every single day. And I think that a lot of times moms don't see that, or they don't think that. They just are tired and, changing diapers and dealing with little people problems, but they really are changing the world through just how they love on the little people of the world. So
yeah. No, I actually have a friend who recently mentioned to me something like, I don't feel like I'm like doing enough. Like I'm just like I'm not cool. I'm not like doing anything cool. I was like, hello, you're the best mom. Like I see you with your kids. You're literally bringing up children who are not going to have to go to therapy from trauma. You know what I mean?
Also, with social media, there's so much pressure. There's so much pressure on everyone to like be perfect. But I think there is so much pressure on moms to curate their perfect children and all the things that they're doing for their children. And the reality is it's just the best moms out there are the ones that are not on social media. I'll say that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's a whole nother discussion.
That's a whole nother podcast episode. But Nechami, thank you so much for being on. I have one last question for you. I always end this podcast on this question. So I'd like to ask you, If you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
It's that beauty really comes from true beauty, really comes from the inside out. And so I guess it's two messages in one, but that's one. It's really about the way that your energy and the way that you interact with people. You could be the most beautiful person on a physical level, but the second someone starts talking to you, you really don't. I shouldn't even say you. I should say a person can be so gorgeous on a physical level, and then someone starts speaking with them, and then they realize that they are just the ugliest person ever because of the way that they talk, the way they treat people. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, you can be someone who maybe you don't feel like you're the prettiest person, but you become the most beautiful person because of the way that you carry yourself and the way you treat people. And also that, and of course, I have to say this, and I really believe it because it's a huge part of my brand. What I stand for is that no matter what you look like on the outside, you are beautiful. And no matter what society tells you, whether I think that certain nose or skin color or whatever is the in thing now or is trendy, you can defy society standards of beauty by just embracing who you are and being the most beautiful version of you.
Nechami, I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast, on the One Girl Revolution podcast, finally. And thank you so much for being on. And thank you for all the great work that you're doing through Defiance Beauty.
Thank you so much for having me, Kate. This was so nice to spend time with you and share my story.
Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Girl Revo. That's the number One Girl REVO. And you can find more information on One Girl Revolution at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.